The movie begins with a college student named Ji-hae, who is trapped in a love triangle. She is in love with a charming student named Sang-min, who runs the university's drama club. The problem? Her best friend, Soo-kyung, also likes Sang-min. Since Soo-kyung is terrible at expressing her feelings, she forces Ji-hae to write romantic emails to Sang-min on her behalf. Tragically, Ji-hae is forced to watch the man she loves fall for her best friend, all while using her own words. One day, Ji-hae is cleaning her house when she stumbles upon a dusty, antique box hidden away in a closet. Inside, she finds a treasure trove of decades-old letters and a diary belonging to her mother, Joo-hee. As Ji-hae begins to read, the story transports us back to the summer of 1968. Here, we meet Jun-ha, a young and slightly awkward high school student. One day at school, his best friend, Tae-soo, approaches him for a favor. Tae-soo is caught in an arranged marriage forced by his strict family. However, Tae-soo is clueless about romance and hates writing letters. Knowing Jun-ha has a gift for poetry and words, Tae-soo begs his best friend to ghostwrite love letters to his new fiancée on his behalf. To show off his bride-to-be, Tae-soo pulls out a photograph. Upon seeing the picture, Jun-ha instantly recognizes her. It is Joo-hee. At this revelation, the story pulls us back in time once again, to the previous summer. During that summer vacation, Jun-ha is visiting his uncle in a quiet countryside village. One afternoon, while wandering near the river, he spots Joo-hee. She has been sent to the countryside by her father to visit her grandfather. For Jun-ha, it is love at first sight. Spotting him, Joo-hee approaches and asks if he knows about the haunted house across the river. She has heard rumors about it and asks if he can take her there. Eager to impress her, Jun-ha agrees immediately. The next day, Jun-ha and Joo-hee set off in a small rowboat. Since this is Jun-ha's first time rowing, he is slow and awkward. However, they reach the old spooky house and explore it together, growing close to each other. On the way back, a sudden downpour catches them by surprise. As the river current picks up, their rowboat drifts away. During the storm, Joo-hee twists her ankle. With no boat left, Jun-ha bravely carries her on his back. They find shelter in an abandoned shack and spend the afternoon together. Afterwards, Jun-ha carries her all the way home. Joo-hee gives Jun-ha a beautiful necklace before she is taken away by her strict family. After that day, they never meet again. Back in the present at school, Jun-ha says nothing to Tae-soo about their past meeting. Instead, he begins writing letters to Joo-hee under his best friend's name. In response, she sends a letter back, formally inviting her fiancé, Tae-soo, to her upcoming school violin recital. Tae-soo is nervous to attend the event alone, so he insists on dragging his best friend Jun-ha along. Later, in the auditorium, Joo-hee begins her recital. Jun-ha is fascinated by her grace, completely unable to take his eyes off of her. After the breathtaking performance ends, the crowd gathers in the lobby. Jun-ha nervously approaches, holding a beautiful bouquet of flowers. Across the crowded room, Joo-hee spots him. Her face instantly lights up, but before they can talk, people surround her and quickly escort her out. Jun-ha is left standing alone, his heart sinking as he watches her disappear. But just a few moments later, Joo-hee manages to slip away. She runs all the way back to the auditorium, desperately searching for him. Finally, she finds him waiting outside. They are both shy, exchanging nervous smiles as they finally get a moment to catch up. Back in the present day, Ji-hae is absorbed in her mother's diary. She realizes that her mother's hidden love story deeply mirrors her own. By now, her best friend Soo-kyung has officially started dating Sang-min, and the new couple invites Ji-hae to hang out with them. Sitting with them, Ji-hae is forced to watch them laugh and act affectionately. Feeling entirely out of place, she makes an excuse to leave early. But before she can slip away, Sangmin stops her. He holds out his hands, offering her 2 small gifts to choose from. Ji-hai picks one and returns home. She opens it to find a simple keychain. However, there is a small card attached to it, featuring a poetic phrase. When the sun shines, I think of you. When the dim moonlight is in the spring, I think of you. For a brief moment, Ji-hai wonders if those words were meant for her. However, later, when she mentions it to Soo-kyung, her friend demands that Ji-hai give the card back. After this, Ji-hai vows not to bother them again and decides to forget Sangmin. The story dives back into the pages of the diary in the late 1960s. Following their reunion after the violin recital, the arranged marriage process between the 2 wealthy families moves forward. Tae-soo and Joo-hee are set up on a formal outing so they can get to know each other better. However, Tae-soo brings Junha along for the date. As the afternoon unfolds, Tae-soo begins to genuinely fall for Joo-hee, unaware of the history between Joo-hee and Junha. Joo-hee and Junha, on the other hand, steal glances at each other at every opportunity. The group eventually finds themselves at a lively dance. In the swirling, moving crowd of the dance floor, Joo-hee and Junha's eyes remain locked on one another. They hold this gaze every time the steps of the dance bring them close together. In the evening, Tae-soo drops Joo-hee off before returning home. Without even thinking, Junha sneaks back and finds Joo-hee at her doorstep. Seeing him, Joo-hee rushes over and they share a warm embrace. As Ji-hai reads her mother's diary, she is caught up in her own emotions. The next day on campus, there is a heavy downpour. With no umbrella, Ji-hai is forced to take shelter under a large tree. Suddenly, Sangmin appears beside her, and he has not brought an umbrella either. With a warm smile, he takes off his coat. He holds it up high over his head, inviting her underneath. Ji-hai hesitates for a second before stepping close to him. Together, their shoulders brushing and their footsteps sinking, they run through the pouring rain across the wet campus. Underneath that coat, the rest of the world completely disappears. As they reach a dry walkway, Ji-hai comes back to reality, feels shy, and quickly walks off. Switching back to her mother's story, Joo-hee and Junha begin dating secretly. However, things get complicated when Tae-soo confesses to Joo-hee that he likes her. Caught in between and feeling guilty, Joo-hee decides to break things off with Junha. But eventually, Junha tells Tae-soo the whole truth. Unlike a typical movie villain, Tae-soo does not get angry. Instead, he decides to step aside and help them meet in secret, even covering for them when their parents ask questions. But one day, Tae-soo's father finds out about the secret. He beats Tae-soo and demands that he force the marriage through to secure a political alliance. Crushed by the pressure and guilt, Tae-soo attempts to take his own life. Junha finds Tae-soo hanging in his room and saves him just in time. However, seeing his best friend nearly die makes Junha realize his love is tearing everyone's lives apart. To end the suffering, Junha decides to drop out of school and leaves Joo-hee behind. The story then shifts back to the present day. Ji-hai is in a coffee shop when she learns a surprising fact. On the day of the heavy downpour, Sangmin actually had an umbrella with him. He had left it at the shop on purpose just so he could run through the rain with her. Realizing that he might have feelings for her too, Ji-hai grabs the umbrella and rushes out to find him, getting completely soaked in the rain along the way. When they finally meet, Sangmin confesses his feelings to her, admitting that he has liked her from the very start. Following this, he breaks up with Soo-kyung, and the two finally get together. Later, the new couple visits the countryside river from her mother's memories. Sitting by the water, Ji-hai tells Sangmin the rest of the story of Joo-hee and Junha. As she tells it, the narrative takes us back to the past once more. Junha has enlisted in the army and is preparing to leave. Joo-hee rushes to the train station to see him off, but the train is already departing. She runs alongside the moving train, hands him her silver necklace through the window, and begs him to return safely. Years later, during the war in Vietnam, Junha's unit is attacked and ordered to evacuate by helicopter. While heading to the chopper, Junha realizes he dropped the silver necklace. He leaves the group and runs back to retrieve it. He manages to find the necklace, but as he turns to head back to the helicopter, an explosion goes off right next to him. Several years pass, and Joo-hee is waiting in a restaurant. Junha walks in, and they sit across from each other. Junha is smiling, telling her that he is happily married now and that she should move on and marry Tae-soo. He speaks calmly, pointing to a piano in the corner and talking about how beautiful the music is. However, Joo-hee notices that there is no piano where he is pointing. She quickly realizes that the explosion in Vietnam took his eyesight. He is completely blind. He had visited the restaurant the day before to memorize the layout, the tables, and the piano, just so he could pretend he could see her one last time. He hoped this act would make it easier for her to let him go. Realizing this, Joo-hee breaks down and cries. Afterwards, Joo-hee honors her family's wishes and marries Tae-soo. Years later, Joo-hee gives birth to a daughter, Ji-hae. The movie then snaps back to the present day. Hearing the tragic story, Sang-min pulls out a silver necklace he has kept with him. It is the exact same necklace given by Joo-hee to Junha. Sang-min's father was Junha. After Joo-hee married Tae-soo, Junha had finally moved on. He got married himself and had a son before eventually passing away. The tragic, unfulfilled love between Joo-hee and Junha in the past was not a total loss. Destiny had simply delayed it by a generation. The movie ends with Ji-hae and Sang-min returning to that same river from 1968, completing the beautiful love story their parents started over 30 years ago.